Let's recap last week's chapter. Father Jay was commissioned by Governor Jim Blanchard of Michigan to be a member of the Judicial Tenure Commission, which was a very prestigious job, and there had never been a priest on that commission in the past. So naturally, Father Jay was both flattered and apprehensive because he didn't think he had the skills to be on such a commission. But as it turned out, his skills were exactly what the commission needed. Although it was quite a challenge, Father Jay really enjoyed it. But how long could he keep up the pace of running a parish and the responsibility of the Judicial Commission? A routine blood donation changed his path forever. And this time, when his health concerns flared up, he found himself facing a very difficult decision. Should he continue or should he retire? In addition, he was subjected to another near-fatal car accident. Go back to last week's chapter to learn what his decision was. And now let's see what is next in store for Father Jay. Chapter 42. The Testimony of Personal Experience. Life's greatest teacher is personal experience. What we experience is real to us. Whether we interpret the experience correctly or not, it is real. It really happened. If I broke my arm and it is in a cast for 6 months, I would affirm without a slightest doubt that it happened to me. If I did not pay my taxes one particular year and the IRS got on my case and added a penalty to my payment, I would not forget it because it was real. The same is true with a mystical experience. If I am awakened during the night and I am greeted with an extraordinary experience of lights, or a voice or a being of light, or even a nightmare or a thunderstorm, regardless of the nature, I would remember it as a reality that is recorded in my senses, whether it is a good or bad memory. I am not referring to a situation in which a person has a documented history of hallucinating either because of taking drugs or is out of touch with reality, or someone victimized by mental illness. In such cases, what is experienced as real to the person exists only in one's mind. On the other hand, people from every walk of life, profession, or uneducated, male or female, young or old, people from every race, creed, or culture, claim to have extraordinary experiences, such as a near-death experience. They experience on the monitor as brain dead and then come back into their body after being told it was not their time to leave the earth. I read in 2 different articles that literally millions worldwide are having such an experience. Speaking of credibility, one's background and lifestyle have a lot to do with it. Lourdes in France is visited by more than 5 million people each year, the result of a heavenly visit to Bernadette Soberos, a rather uneducated young lady who was as innocent as a young child. She was told that the visitor was the Immaculate Conception. Bernadette did not know what either word meant. Only after water gushed out of an area where there was no water, and only after proven and authentic healings took place as a result of being washed in the miraculous water of Lourdes, was she believed. The life she led afterwards, until her death, was perfectly consistent with the life of a saint, and after years of investigation concerning every aspect of her life, she was indeed canonized a saint in the Catholic Church. Mother Teresa is well known throughout the world as an example of a saintly life. I heard her give a talk in person on 2 different occasions, and I was deeply impressed with her unwavering faith and also with her continuous communication with God. She attributes nothing to herself. It is God who has empowered her to accomplish such marvelous and extraordinary deeds. On both occasions, I spoke with Mother Teresa afterwards. Those moments represent a couple of highlights in my life. Neither one of these saintly women were prone to hear voices that led them down an unreal path. Rather, the life they led and their accomplishments gave authenticity to their mystical experiences. We can add many names to that list. Dr. Martin Luther King was a powerful religious leader who raised his followers to a level of equality, freedom, and pride, far beyond their previous self-image as a race. He is revered also as a saintly person who was martyred for the cause of righteousness and truth. He spoke of being up on the mountain where God dwells. His beliefs of being led by divine guidance is universally accepted because of his sincerity, his accomplishments, and his lifestyle. I pray that my lifestyle has been consistent with the mystical experiences, miraculous healings, and the most unexpected gift of divine guidance I have received or witnessed since my childhood. Was I just lucky to be in the right place at the right time? I doubt it. The extraordinary happen too often, and I attribute none of them to myself. My whole life has gone in a direction I never planned. I simply wanted to do God's will and to fulfill my purpose for being here, with the help of the Holy Spirit. If I followed my own instincts and went through life without ever having the benefit of the spiritual guidance I have presented here, I would have probably led an ordinary life, had an ordinary job, married a wonderful girl, had children, and be a retired grandpa today. That, of course, was not my destiny in this life. The path I chose and was encouraged to follow began when I changed from the school of my choice, which was St. Joseph High School in downtown Detroit, to Sacred Heart Seminary. I had said that personal experience is the greatest teacher. In my seminary and post-seminary academic career, we learned a great deal about other people's experiences. We did not own it, we did not claim it, and we did not live it. It was part of the curriculum. We did not make a deep study of the philosophy and theology of St. Thomas Aquinas. He was an original thinker. His works are prolific and awesome. In fact, he held the enviable position as the official theologian of the Church from the 13th century up into and including most of the 20th century. He was good, very good. His theology was literally the foundation of our belief system. For over 700 years, we relied on the same material. There was only one problem. There was no alternatives. Aquinas and a few other theologians compatible to him were presented to us. As a matter of interest, Aquinas at that point wanted to burn all his works. He considered them a straw compared to the mystical experiences he had later in life. The truth of his personal encounter with the Lord of Truth made his works appear totally unsatisfactory to him. He was, however, prevented from destroying his many volumes. What he thought was straw was still enlightenment to the rest of the world. My quest was to become a priest. I wanted to serve God in priestly ministry. My goal kept me on course, but I had many doubts along the way. After all, I had 12 years to make up my mind. Part of our training was not to rock the boat. It would be dangerous and rebellious. Discipline was absolutely necessary to run a major and minor seminary with about 500 students at that time. Being a seminary, there was also the additional importance of insisting on conformity to Catholic teachings. Naturally, we were eventually going to be the ones to teach and preach the Catholic system to others. I kept the rules and kept my mouth shut. My doubts would surface in almost every aspect of seminary education, from an abundance of traditional and/or obsolete regulations in canon law to the incredible power and grace of the sacraments, or from the fixed dogma of belief to an enormously complicated pattern of behavior expressed in moral theology, or even to the very understanding of God. Did St. Thomas Aquinas become aware of a totally different view of who God is after having his mystical experiences? I think yes. Did I object to anything taught us? Of course not. Any questions for the sake of clarity? Yes, very carefully and with reservation. Did I share my concerns with my classmates? Rarely, and very much in private. I did not know if they had similar doubts. We inherited a concrete, systematic thought system of a church that had withstood opposition and argumentation, schism and religious division for 2,000 years. It had gone through many periods of self-examination through its general councils. 2 councils stand out in modern times. In 1545, the Council of Trent was convened following the founding of the Lutheran Church by Martin Luther, a Catholic priest, and the separation from Rome by Henry VIII, enforcing the practice of the Anglican faith throughout England. Then came the Vatican Council II, which began in 1963, 7 years after I was ordained. It was refreshing and exciting. It was also necessary. As Pope John XXIII stated, "Let's open the window and let some fresh air in." It was time for another self-examination of Catholic belief, practices, and policies. This time it was done in the presence of religious leaders of many denominations. It was bold. No other religion had ever done this before or after. The Catholic Church came out of the Middle Ages, and just in time. The window was open and the massive change began. Deep feelings and silent convictions emerged all over the entire Catholic world. Questions locked for many years within the heart were being addressed, and some issues were resolved, but raised other larger questions. A case in point, as a byproduct of the council, the centuries-old policy of a celibate priesthood suddenly became ajar. Thousands of clergy and religious left the active ministry, and with the blessing of the Church. Some did not wait nor ever cared for such a blessing. At the time, we called it a brain drain. Some of the finest minds in the Church chose another profession. In the married state, I, for one, thought seriously of leaving the active ministry in the early 60s. However, many of my doubts were resolved with the Vatican Council documents, and I was given spiritual encouragement by my guides. However, I cannot deny that there are still some serious questions that are untouched. But I still believe my choice to remain in the active ministry of the priesthood is the right one. Nevertheless, the Vatican Council was a noble effort, the phenomenal attempt to update a church with about 1 billion members worldwide. The updating, unfortunately, is still being trickled down to the total membership. Some areas in the world are still in the pre-Vatican mindset. In some cases, only the changes that are convenient have been implemented. We see the same principle in the minds of some of our older generation who prefer the good old days, but they will never give up their television sets or car or air conditioning. Being selective has always been an open option. Thank you for listening, and please join us every Sunday at 3 o'clock for our watch party as I premiere the next chapters of Father Jay's book.